Hey guys, so I'm making a video today about when I first discovered I had good genetics or whatever. Somebody asked me to make a video on something like this. I forget what they really asked me to do, but here goes anyways. Let's start off by saying that genetics don't determine where you start, they determine where you can go. So I don't think most people know their genetics very well. Obviously, a bigger frame could theoretically carry more muscle and stuff like that. And obviously, I mean, there are some genetic predispositions in terms of like arm length and leverages and shit. But generally, when I first started training, you would not know that I could get so big and strong and stuff. I was 14 years old, and it was my birthday. I had to be 14 to lift at the YMCA. As soon as I was allowed to work out, I did. I even snuck in a little bit before that. But I was 14 years old. I weighed 215 pounds or 220, and I could bench 105 for one. It was hard. It was a max, and it actually took me about a month to get up to that because I went in, I started doing shoulder press and stuff like that, and then like a few weeks into working out, I tried benching. I did 105 for one. So when I started, I couldn't bench half my body weight, which is kind of pathetic, especially for someone who weighed as much as I did. I was probably like 5'10", 5'11". I was just disturbingly out of shape, really bad. I remember when I first started training, I had 15-inch arms, but when I would flex, there was no bicep bump at all. It was literally just tubes of cookie dough. Like any kind of flexing, there was no movement in my arm. It was just pure like tube fat. It took me months just to be able to see the bicep lump even a little bit. However, I do think I have good genetics. Obviously, I must have good genetics. I have frame size and shit like that. But I think what really did it for me is ever since I was a little kid, even when I was really young, my dad predispositioned me to believe that I was going to be really strong and stuff. And that could be because he always was and his brothers always were. But he could have just as easily screwed up my mindset there. When I was a little kid, my brother was little. My dad would always encourage, kind of feats of strength. He would always encourage eating a lot of food. And it got to the point where he would joke and call me and my brother the lads of power, which kind of stuck with me. I mean, he would tell us stories about how strong he was when he was our age. Could do 100 push-ups without training and stuff like that. 1,000 sit-ups without doing sit-ups. Very good genetics from my dad's side of the family. It's not really deniable. My uncle at 14 could bench 240 for reps at 120 pounds. My other uncle, I believe, did 385 at 17 on bench. And these are guys who aren't taking drugs, who don't necessarily know exactly how to train ideally for strength. I mean, they have a general idea, but it's not like they're reading West Side articles and scouring T Nation and shit. So very good genetics from my dad's side of the family. My dad's 5'10", fluctuated between like 280 and 330 since I've known him. Always, a big, strong guy. He'd bench 250 without training with like a close grip. Didn't warm up, paused at 250 on his chest and pressed it with a close grip like one day in my garage. My mom's just tall. She's 5'10". She definitely gave me the overall like arm length and that kind of shit genetics. My dad gave me really short legs. My mom gave me really long arms and shit like that. Overall, it worked out. I got lifting genetics from my dad, and I got frame and shit from my mom. Oddly enough, my dad's 5'10", but his shoulders are the same width as mine. So, good genetics. When I was a little kid, I always believed I was strong because my dad specifically told me I would be and always kind of encouraged me to be strong. Just small stuff, arm wrestling. I was always very competitive with other kids when I was young because I believed I could be. I mean, I was told I was going to be strong. I lost at arm wrestling probably 2 or 3 times in my life growing up, always to like older kids who were like significantly bigger. I was always the fastest runner in my class, possibly even in my school, depending on my age. When I was light, when I was a little kid, I wasn't fat. I could always outrun everyone. I could always do pull-ups. I've been able to do pull-ups for as long as I can remember. I've always been able to do stomach vacuums where you suck your stomach in and stuff. Very good ab control, just genetically, just my waist and shit. When I was like 8 years old, we were having PE class, and it was boys versus girls in tug of war, and obviously the boys kept winning. And then they put me on the girls team, and then we started winning. So I would say that was probably the first time that I realized that I must have pretty good genetics for stuff. Before that, I always just kind of assumed, you know, I don't know, I just assumed I had good genetics, arm wrestling, running, shit like that. PE class, we'd see who could do the most pull-ups. It would be me. Um, just that kind of shit. Probably because when I was little, I used to climb trees and run around and stuff. Nothing extraordinary or anything. It's just I was probably just more active than other kids when I was little. So yeah, some stories for you there. I mean, like I always kind of had good genetics, but then I got to a certain age and everybody else started hitting puberty. I believe I developed late. I didn't really hit puberty until like 13, maybe. Yeah, probably like 13. I mean, it started at 12, but other kids developed faster than me, and so right around then is when I turned to a 215-pound tub of shit who couldn't bench half my body weight. And I kind of lost belief in my genetics and stuff at that point because I have to tell you, over the years, when I was in high school and middle school and stuff, I saw so many kids with better genetics than me. I saw so many kids who didn't even have to work out hardly to be as strong as me, who naturally, if they trained even a little bit, they could outlift me. I mean, their genetics were just insane. I knew a kid who had 20-inch calves, like lean at 280, like not fat at 18. And he was about my height. He's probably like 6'3", something like that, a little bit taller than me, like 6'4". Uh, it's genetics, but like I've seen a lot of people who have genetics that would seem to be just as good, if not better than mine. Kids who would bench over the summer for football and they'd get stronger than me on bench when I trained it all year while bulking, while doing everything I could. Shit like that. So genetics play a big part in it, but they don't really tell you much. Like you won't know how good your genetics are until you push them for a long period of time doing everything you can. A lot of people look at my lifts and tell me they would never be able to do it, but I mean, they never believed they could do it, so they never really tried to do it. And when it comes right down to it, it wouldn't even really be worth it for them to try. Because let's face it, not everyone gives a shit about the things I'm trying to do. So basically, I just want to tell you guys, I do have good genetics. I must. But at the same time, you don't know how good yours are until you push yourself for a long period of time doing everything that you can. I could very easily not even be close to as strong as I am right now, just having, because I didn't try as hard. I mean, like I wasn't predispositioned to be very strong, I don't think. Naturally, I feel like I'm fat. Naturally, I feel like I do not have very much muscle. I just have a lot of strength potential, with which I believe a lot of people have a lot more potential than they realize. They're just not necessarily willing to use that potential, and they're not necessarily wanting to use that potential, and they don't necessarily even believe they have the potential to begin with. Everyone's so self-limiting. One of the biggest things I've ever had was like an extreme belief in my ability to get bigger and stronger and stuff. Because when it comes right down to it, we can control it to a large degree. It's up to us, the way we eat and the way we train and the things we do and the supplements we take. We control that shit. So to be able to say you can't do something is that you have full control over is kind of like it's self-limiting. It really limits you. I was lucky enough to be told from the time I was very young that I was going to be strong, and that, you know, I would be stronger than other people, and that I would be bigger than other people. And I went with it and believed it, and then I started believing that I could get these certain numbers. I started believing I could be the strongest person in the world when I was like way before I was actually strong. Like I could deadlift like 405 or 455 or something at 15, and I was like, I'm gonna deadlift 800, 900 pounds someday. So like it really comes down to how much you believe it and how much you want it and stuff like that, because where you start does not dictate where you can go with your genetics. It just doesn't. So just believe in yourself basically, and know what you want and be willing to work for it, and don't limit yourself because you started off here and because gains are slow right now, because that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with where you can go in the future. There's I mean, Stan Efferding, for example, guy's a freak of nature. Apparently he started off really small and weak, like really small and weak. Misha, whatever the hell his last name is, something with a K, that dude who deadlifts like 9 something and like can jerk 600 pounds behind his neck. I saw a picture of that guy. That guy used to be so skinny. Brandon Lilly, that guy was freaking really small in high school, like not a big guy at all. So if you want to discuss genetics, I mean, It has nothing to do with where you start, pretty much. It has everything to do with where you can go, and you'll never know where you can go if you don't believe in yourself and try and really want shit. So there's my take on genetics, and there's a little bit about me. If you guys enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more.